When my family and I moved to California, my dad got all of us annual passes to Disneyland. And Disneyland very soon became my very favorite place. I loved all the rides, the food, the parades, the characters. I loved Disneyland. Anyways, when we first moved there, my very first friend lived down the street from me, and her name was Stacy. And Stacy and I used to play every day. We'd ride bikes, we'd go swimming, we'd go to the park, we'd, you know, bake and play dress up, and she was one of my very best friends. One day we were playing, Stacy told me she had never been to Disneyland. And when she told me that, I was like, "What? You've never been to Disneyland? Well, you have to go with us." So our parents set it up, and that following weekend, we actually all went to Disneyland. Me, my dad, my mom, and Stacy. And on the way there, I was going crazy. I was like, "Stacy, we're going to ride Space Mountain. We're going to ride, Matterhorn. We're going to eat a bunch of candy and see the parades." And Stacy just wasn't as excited as me, and I thought, oh, well, of course it's because she hasn't been, so she won't know until she's there. When we first got there, I wanted to ride Space Mountain first because it was my favorite ride. And I told Stacy, "Hey, we're going to go to Space Mountain." And she goes, "What is it? Does it go fast? Is there a loop-de-loop? Is it a long ride? Is it scary?" And my dad said, "Don't worry, Stacy. Jenna's been on it a million times. You'll be fine." Well, we went on the ride, and at the very end, I turned around because she was sitting behind me, and I said, "Stacy, did you like it? How awesome was that?" And she was like she looked like she had seen a ghost. She was so scared out of her mind. And we got off the ride, and my first reaction was like, "Stacy, why don't you like it? It was awesome." And she was just like, "I don't really like roller coasters. They scare me." So we tried going on a couple other rides, and every time I'd ask her to do a new ride, she'd go, "What is it? Is it fast? Is it scary? Is there a loop-de-loop?" And each time my dad had to calm her down and say, "No, Stacy, don't worry. You should try it." She never tried it. A couple hours go by, and after I went on a few rides by myself, my dad said, "All right, girls, I think it's time for a churro." And Stacy goes, "What is it? Is it fast? Is there a loop-de-loop? Is it scary?" And I started laughing so hard. And I looked at my dad, and I'm like, "Dad, she's scared of a churro." And my dad kind of looked at me like, "Shh, stop laughing at her." And I stopped, and I thought she was kidding, but I realized she was serious. So I said, "No, Stacy, a churro is a dessert. It's like the best dessert in the world. It's like a, long cinnamon sugar stick of fried bread or whatever." And Stacy just was like, "Okay, sure, I'll try a churro." And I will never forget this day because not only whenever I see a churro do I think of Stacy being so frightened of a churro, but whenever I hear anybody asking, what is this or what is that when it's an item of food, I just think of Stacy's face, of how scared she was of just a churro. It's never going to leave my mind. Like the image, the whole day of how scared she was of everything. Every time I think of a churro or I think of someone trying something new, it transports me back to that day when Stacy was so scared of a churro.